Thank you very much. In Yorkshire, which I'm proud to be an honorary Yorkshireman, we call a spade a spade. And I'm trying to, I'll keep calling the spade a spade for as long as I live. So my talk, hopefully, will address some of that points. Just before I continue the work, I also have heard the word Iraq and the parallel with Iraq. And God forbid that Libya descends to the chaos that we are seeing in Iraq. We are on the edge, but we can be very close to that. And I don't think that will be in the good for anybody. Not in the West, not in the East. And I think we really need to just get rid of the havoc that preceded Iraq and still continuing until this very moment in time. The 40-minute lie and all of that. I think Libya, if we will allow it to descend, we in Europe will be very much affected. So, having said that, I also have helped through the UNESCO and the ASTF and other organizations to help fellow Iraqi academics. And I hate to talk about that experience because it's not a good one. I've seen several of those that I've helped personally lose their lives with the chaos that we in the West have created in Iraq. So it's a warning, but it's one, I say it with a heavy heart. So we really need to understand the past of Libya, and I don't think we should really look at the Gaddafi era as just a failure in politics, or in political terms, a dictatorship. That regime has failed in every single aspect that you can think of. Social, economic, even religious. And I think the havoc that we are seeing and the extremism that we are seeing in Libya today is just a byproduct of all of that. So we really got to be honest and look at the problem from such a way. And unless we look through our failures to rebuild and come up with new solutions, we are not going to learn anything from history. So we need to really understand the problem that we are facing via that failure that we have done and the implications of that has done. So where do we go from here? Definitely there are problems, and the speakers this morning have spoken about them at great length. There are challenges, but there are opportunities. And it depends whether the cup that I just left there, was it half full or half empty? And there is always, if you are optimistic, you will find a way through the problems that we are facing. There is, and I've got to be saying that, and I'm proud of saying it, and I'm honest in saying it, that there is a responsibility for the international community because Gaddafi did not do what he has managed to do over 40 years with the whole world rejecting it or against it. Many of the Western states and regimes were partners with Gaddafi in what he has done. So what I'm appealing to people to say is, we have an opportunity here. Let's be part of the success that Libya can be. So how can we achieve that? There is the present security issues, and my very good friend, Professor Al-Gharyani, have said that in the morning. I would like to echo what he has said. It is a temporary problem. Security is going to improve because the Libyan people are determined to improve the security problem. And the educational one, it's much longer term. And we've got to plan today so that our children, our grandchildren, and I have grandchildren, to live in a secure, prosperous, and successful state. There is a need of reform of the education system. So what can we do? The international community can do really a lot, and I will talk about one or two areas in here, but I will start with myself by saying I also belong to the Libyan expats who are outside Libya. How can they be part of the building of the new Libya? We have a moral responsibility and an obligation for our fellow countrymen to help rebuild that state. There is a significant number of educated people, mainly in the States. There are a good number of Europe, but there is a very large number in the Gulf states who are happy living there, but they should also be thinking, because they sometimes go and spend the couple of weeks in Libya and enjoy meeting friends and family, but they should have other obligations as well. I'm not going to talk too much about that because that's already been covered by both Professor Al-Ghariani and Professor Fathi Al-Akkari. But actually, when I look at some of the work in here, the teaching load, and I remember talking to some of my colleagues in Libya and say, well, how many hours do you teach? How many courses? And I'm above average in my department. Because I hate to say no, and my head of department is a good friend of mine, so he comes and says, well, all right, Mohammed, you will do that one for us, please, can? And I say, well, all right. So I take 3 to 4 courses through the year. How many hours is that? And when I say that to some of my colleagues in Libya, they just fall off their chairs. Because they say, well, I do that in a semester, man. So if you are doing all of that, research is not going to be done. There is just no time for research. So again, that need to be really looked at with honesty and saying, all right, if we are going to rebuild, we've got to address these issues. Oops. So how can the international community help? Well, a lot. But for example, and I would say that in many of the universities that we are representing in here, they can have a very short, tailor-made program to help young academics who are coming out of the mechanism of 4 years to get a PhD, to learn how to write a grant application. That's very important. It's an art. You just don't get it like that. You have to work and you have got to sweat to perfect it. So it can show what you are going to be doing and how you are going to be doing it. So again, there is a good deal of project management that you have to do, supervision of the people that you are going to employ when that project is going to be effected. Writing journal papers, and I hate to see any postgraduate students leaving my group without publishing. A journal publication, they hate it sometimes, they even hate me. I say, well, he's unreasonable. I need to go back. And I say, well, believe you me, one day you will say thank you because you put me through a tough time that helped me at the end of the day. Writing journal papers where the referee come back, and I showed them, after 30, 40 years of publishing, I showed them, I said, well, here is a referee, a colleague from St. Elsewhere, I don't know where, it's anonymous, and say, well, you failed to address this point. Change this one, or you are not doing a proper experiment in here. Or I reject your paper. I haven't had paper rejections. Touch wood, thank God for that. But it can happen. So again, writing a research paper is very important. Teaching people how to get a research priming fund from the university, small amount of money to deliver some work. Go through that kind of mechanism. That's very important. 2 to 4 weeks, you can teach people how to become effective researchers later on. We really need also to help people get the right balance between research, teaching, and admin. There might be some schemes in here whereby people can be shadowing other lecturers, introducing feedback, questionnaires and stuff like that, and delivery with quality assurance. It's very, very important, and other colleagues have already addressed that point more than I can do it. But we really need agile policies to have high impact on the ground. So the Libyan government need to have a vision, a clear strategy of getting into that. We need to incentivize staff to conduct effective high-quality research. What's the difference between somebody who is publishing and somebody who's not publishing? Someone who's really spending more time in his laboratory or her laboratory to do more work, or who are staying late at night perfecting some work. And someone who's just passing the time and say, well, thank you very much. There must be a difference between the two, even if it is not personal. Because if you are doing research, it is personal. You're proud of what you are producing. And we've got to instill that in people. And I think it is a duty on people on my side of the equation, supervisors, to help young academics to have that kind of passion for research. Again, I said responsibility is there. The recent numbers, and I've heard that number before, but I've also heard it when Dr. Gaddour invited me to attend the news conference at the embassy. And I had several people who have contacted me because their parents know me and say, well, can you help? 16,000, and we've started seeing some of them, and I was shocked. I was pleased, first of all, for the number, but I was shocked for the lack of policy. And I think it is shame on whoever is sending these people not to have coordination with the embassy. What is the cultural attaché doing if that is not part of his and his team's work? Why do you have to bypass them and belittle their work and their efforts? It's sad. It pains me because it's money almost going down the drains. And I can be as honest as possible. Some people have even got the money to do some language training for these kids, and they didn't even have the classes. They don't have the building. I had to help one of them move from one city to the other because I felt it is the least that I can do. It's outside my remits, outside my experience, but I've managed to do it, and I had a happy person at the end of the day. But there are several hundreds with that scheme who are not happy. And it is shame on us back in Libya that we have sent these people, but shame on those who have found an opportunity for a quick buck to go and do something like that. And in that, I take my hat to the University of Sheffield, because they are, here is my colleague saying to you, I still have 36,000 pounds in the kitty that can be spent, but we are not going to spend it on tea and coffee and parties. We need to spend it on people from Omar al-Mukhtar University. That's how we should really be all behaving. The cake is too big for one person. It will suffice all of us if we do it with honesty and integrity. Passion for me, I would not have achieved what I have achieved over the years without good quality technicians with me in the labs. And I think it is sad that people belittle the importance of technical colleges or being a good engineer or a good technician. I mean, Tony Blair was wrong in saying 50% of the population have got to go to universities. Why? Why? Madness. And we in the UK have wasted so much money, and we have lost a very good educational institution which was doing vocational training. We have lost that. And we are now trying to have new schemes from the taxpayers to recreate that. So I'm trying to be as honest as a Yorkshireman could have ever be, or a Gumati from Libya can be. Anyway. Again, that has been a question that I've added, and I was talking to someone and I said, well, I normally carry on improving my talks until the very last minute. And there was a question on the number that came from that side of the room on how you are going to retrain the people in Libya, the staff in Libya. I've got to be honest. Many of these colleagues cannot do it anymore. They have had either an easy life or a tough life that they have spent so much time doing nothing almost, or repeating themselves. And some of them will not be able to retrain. Many people of them are in their 60s. I was even amazed to see that some who have never published anything for the last 30 years are going on sabbatical in their 70s. It's a joke. It certainly is a joke. So what I'm saying in here is, yes, we need to retrain. There is about between 10, 12,000, perhaps even 15,000 members of staff, academic staff in Libya, all over. Some of them are young, and they are the ones that we really need to spend time and effort retraining. But some of them, we really need to make it a dignified exit. We cannot say to them, you're fired, because they had nothing to do with that. So we give them an exit strategy. That also happens in the West. I was talking to a colleague of mine from the University of Texas at Austin, and he said, well, we do that. We do that with people who have come halfway through their career and stopped. They give them some financial incentives and say, well, all right, you can retire now and leave that place to be occupied by somebody else. We need to think outside the box. The pension in Libya is very, very good. I wish the pension in the UK was as good as that. And I don't think Libya will have enough in the kitty to pay for the pension. But anyway, some of these people, if we can make it dignified exit for them, and then invest in the future by having a new generation of well-trained people. But some of them may also be just on teaching contracts only. We have that also in the UK. So you don't have to be a researcher and a lecturer. It can be one or the other, or both of them, if you are willing to do that. Finally, that's the final one. We have put so much time on STEM. Science, technology, math, and English, and all of that. We really need to have STEM+. The social sciences need to be put into the equation again. Sociology, philosophy, education, psychology, all of these subjects are very important for the health of a nation. I'm saying it as a scientist who have spent most of my life, adult life, playing with science and technology, but I say it, unless we have that balance correct, we are going to be doomed, as he was saying in Dad's Army. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I've taken too much time.